Welcome to the Edge of Your Seat catch-up compilation. It feels a bit unfair to criticise a first-time director. Not everyone gets it right on their first try. But given that the man in question, Lawrence Sher, has been the cinematographer for a number of comedy films, I Love You Man, The Hangover, Paul, a level of expertise should be expected. But, well, we'll get on to that. Brothers Kyle and Peter, Owen Wilson, and Ed Helms. Really, they're supposed to be brothers? Are on the search for their true father, after their mother is revealed to have lied to them about his identity and status for their whole lives. What follows is a road trip bonding session for the chalk and cheese siblings, as they go from potential father to potential father, and yeah, you've seen this sort of thing before. The problem is that father figures juggles a heartfelt character drama and a gross-out comedy, and can't find any meaningful way to mesh them. So we end up with either an overlong comedy or a sparse drama, neither of which has much to offer beyond poor imitation. It's not completely without merit, though. I did genuinely laugh sometimes, and there were some interesting cameos. But it's not likely to stick in your mind long after you've seen it. As Ren has reminded me, tropes aren't necessarily a bad thing.
Of course not. Clichés are clichés for a reason.
What matters is what you do with them. I don't think anyone going into Finding Your Feet will be particularly surprised by the film that greets them. The characters, the themes, the plot structure, they're all familiar and well worn, like a favourite pair of comfy slippers. So let's try them on. A stuck-up woman finds her husband of 40 years has been having an affair, so she leaves him. The only person who'll take her in is a down-to-earth but free-spirited sister, who lives a modest existence in a council flat and gets together with friends at a local community dance centre. Extremes learn from each other, attitudes soften, there's fun, there's gentle humour, there's social commentary, and maybe even a tear or two. Yes, it is a bit predictable. I'd be surprised if you didn't know where it was going after the first 15 minutes. But sometimes that's just what you want. A lot of the cosy goodwill in this film comes down to the sparkling performances. Imelda Staunton and Celia Imrie play the odd couple sisters, with Timothy Spall and Joanna Lumley adding lower and upper class charm respectively. There's just such a joy in all of them that manages to polish up the old film favourites, even if they can't quite make them new again. In 1994, US figure skating champion Nancy Kerrigan was bludgeoned and incapacitated by Shane Stant. The attack was planned by Jeff Gillooly and Sean Eckhart, ex-husband and self-appointed bodyguard respectively of fellow figure skater Tonya Harding. Harding's actual involvement in the incident is somewhat hard to factually pin down, but it ended her career and made her infamous in the press. This is the story I, Tonya builds around, with mockumentary present-day talking heads providing various unreliably narrated flashbacks to the incident. And the events that led up to it. This playful structure makes the film a joy, providing enough of the story for us to piece together our own conclusions. Of course, because Harding's downfall was made so public, we, the audience, are drawn in and stand accused with the rest of them. The media may sensationalise, but we eat it up. Much has been made of the female performances in this film, and with good reason. Alison Janney and Margot Robbie create a scintillatingly toxic mother-daughter relationship, each character fleshed out on their own, but still defined and driven by the other. Sebastian Stan plays something of the straight guy in Gillooly.
But he hit her.
Allegedly. And Paul Walter Hauser has fun with the inconceivably dumb Eckhart. The anarchic fun of the whole thing is just infectious, and it's definitely worth a trip to the cinema. Ren and I love our board games.
Woo! Board games!
They're a great way to socialise and build friendships.
Or destroy them.
We can get pretty invested in our games, but we always know where the fantasy ends and the reality begins. But what if we didn't? And segue into... Game night follows married couple Max and Annie, Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams, who love board games even more than we do. Their entire relationship is founded on board games. They're thinking of starting a family, but Max's older, hotter, more successful brother Brooks is coming to town, making Max feel emasculated. This is worsened when Brooks hijacks the couple's friendship group and promises to throw the best game night ever, a kidnap game so real they won't know what to believe. What follows is a knotted series of action comedy shenanigans, elevated by a smart script, endearing performances, and some excellent camera work. Some of the action beats feel inspired by the Cornetto trilogy, whilst all of the establishing shots make the characters and scenery look like models on a game board. Essentially then, this is a comedy that works because of the effort put into it. So get your gaming or pub quiz crew together and go and have a good laugh. Based on the novel by real-life former operative of the CIA, Jason Matthews, Red Sparrow shows the mundanity and the horror that go hand in hand in the intelligence field. Jennifer Lawrence plays Dominika Igorova, a Russian ballerina sucked into the world of espionage by her manipulative uncle. She's sent to learn the ways of the Sparrows, agents taught to seduce targets to acquire information. Dominika refers to it as whore school, and she's not far wrong. Far from being the Black Widow rip-off many expected, the film is best described as the origin of the honey trap. Ever watched a Bond film and wondered what kind of messed up life the seduction agents must have? Well, here's your answer. Now, because of this slightly niche premise, it almost goes without saying that Red Sparrow will have a niche audience. It's not an action film. It's a slow, methodical spy thriller throwback to the Cold War, though it's set in the present. Yay! Russia are the big bad in films again. It walks the line between showing exploitation and actually being exploitative, and honestly, it does slip sometimes. It can be a hard and nasty thing to watch.
Seriously, this is a 15? It's clearly an 18.
But the performances from Lawrence and her opposite Joel Edgerton make it captivating, even when it's repulsive.
My parents are gonna kill me.
Words familiar to most teens. It's hyperbole, of course, but what if it wasn't? That is the simple but brilliantly terrifying premise at the heart of Mom and Dad. An unexplained incident. Is it a viral outbreak? A terrorist attack? Causes the usual parental instinct to protect and nurture the offspring to be flipped on its head. Parents now have an uncontrollable urge to kill children. Not all children though, just their own. Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair star as middle-aged, middle-class parents the Ryans, caught up in this filicidal frenzy. Nicolas Cage in particular is on top form here. He embraces the wacky horror of the concept to bring out one of his most entertainingly unhinged performances in years. If you're a fan of his famous freakouts, you'll want to see this. The film feels like a cult horror in the making, an electric-charged B-movie with off-kilter shot compositions, creating a sense of unease from the get-go. It's never exactly subtle. It's hard to miss a theme of generational disparity when it's writ quite this large. But for me, that was part of the charm. Others may find it too brash for their tastes, though. So, stop me if you've heard this one before. Group of oddballs who were popular in the 80s must reform to save their favourite meeting spot from imminent closure by putting on one last show. Underdogs of tradition must fight against the encroaching evil of so-called progress. Such is Walk Like a Panther, the new film about a group of West Yorkshire wrestlers who were popular in the 80s, reforming to save their local pub from closure by putting on one last show. If that sounds generic, that's because it is. Tropes and cliches can be great cinematic shorthand, but only if they're done well. When they're not, they can feel like the hackneyed remains of better films, and unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with here. I don't want to be too harsh on the film. I mean, it's got its heart in the right place, and it was filmed just down the road from where I live, but it's too much of a mess to recommend. Just watch an episode of Corrie followed by the full Monty, and you'll have a similar but better evening's entertainment. In Gringo, we follow mild-mannered everyman Harold Soyinka as he navigates the nastiness of Mexican drug cartels and American pharmaceutical companies. There's kidnapping, there's corruption, and there's a fair bit of comedy, and any further plot details would likely count as spoilers for this charmingly convoluted farce. Look, I'll be upfront about this, it's not a great film. It's a messy jumble of ideas that never properly come together, but it's still worth your time watching, at least once. And most of this recommendation is down to a stellar, maybe even overqualified, cast, with the always excellent David Oyelowo as Harold, and Joel Edgerton and Charlize Theron as his corporate bosses. There's also an entertaining turn by Sholto Copley as a humanitarian mercenary. Though it's hard to see quite why Amanda Seyfried's character made the edit at all, to be honest. Bye!